Why would one of the most high-profile siblings in internet culture openly push back against his own brother? And why did a Super Bowl halftime show become the line in the sand? Because this story isn't really about music or football or even Bad Bunny. It's about public platforms, cultural identity, and what happens when outrage moves faster than understanding. For months now, the Super Bowl halftime show featuring Bad Bunny has continued to ripple far beyond the field at Levi's Stadium. The Seattle Seahawks, dominating the New England Patriots on the scoreboard, quickly became a footnote as conversation shifted toward the artist chosen to headline one of the most watched broadcasts on the planet. Bad Bunny's performance sparked celebration in some corners, confusion in others, and outright anger in a few loud spaces online. That reaction alone is worth examining, but what made this moment especially notable was who chose to speak up and who chose to push back. Jake Paul took to social media to voice his dissatisfaction with Bad Bunny being selected for the halftime show. His comments framed the artist as a fake American, language that immediately drew attention and criticism. The reaction was swift, not only because of the wording, but because Bad Bunny is from Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory whose residents are American citizens. That context matters, and it's where Logan Paul entered the conversation. Logan Paul, responding publicly, made it clear that while he loves his brother, he did not agree with the take. His response was calm, direct, and notably measured compared to the original criticism. Logan emphasized that Puerto Ricans are Americans and expressed happiness that talent from the island was given a chance to be showcased on such a massive stage. On the surface, this might look like a simple sibling disagreement played out online. But the reason this moment resonates is because of what it represents in a broader sense. When two public figures with enormous reach disagree in public, especially on issues touching culture and identity, the conversation becomes bigger than either of them. Bad Bunny is not a fringe artist. He has been one of the most streamed performers in the world for years, consistently drawing global audiences. His selection for the halftime show wasn't a surprise from a popularity standpoint, but it challenged expectations held by some viewers about what an American Super Bowl performance should look or sound like. Jake Paul's reaction reflected that discomfort. Whether intentional or not, his comments reduced a complex cultural reality into a simplified and inaccurate label. That reduction is what drew criticism, and it's what Logan Paul chose to address. Logan didn't frame his response as an attack. He didn't escalate the conflict. Instead, he acknowledged familial loyalty while drawing a clear boundary around what he believed was right. That balance is rare in public disagreements, especially ones involving family members who are both accustomed to commanding attention. It's also worth noting where Jake Paul lives. He resides in Puerto Rico, the very place he was indirectly criticizing. That contradiction added another layer to the backlash, as observers questioned how someone living on the island could dismiss its people's American identity. Logan's response cut through that contradiction by centering the discussion on inclusion rather than outrage. He framed the halftime show as an opportunity, not a threat. An opportunity for representation, for visibility, and for acknowledging that American culture isn't monolithic. This distinction is important. The Super Bowl halftime show has always been a reflection of where mainstream culture is at a given moment. Over the years, it has shifted alongside music trends, demographics, and audience expectations. Each change brings resistance, and each resistance often reveals more about the audience than the performer. In this case, the resistance wasn't rooted in Bad Bunny's performance quality, stage presence, or ability to draw viewers. It was rooted in identity and who some people believe belongs on that stage. Logan Paul's public disagreement mattered because it reframed the conversation. Instead of letting the narrative settle around outrage, he redirected it toward recognition. Recognition that Puerto Rico is part of the United States. Recognition that talent doesn't need to fit a narrow definition to be worthy of a global platform. For fans watching from the outside, this moment also served as a reminder of how influence works. When someone with millions of followers speaks, their words don't exist in a vacuum. They shape perceptions, reinforce assumptions, or challenge them. Logan chose to challenge. That choice doesn't mean the conversation ends. In fact, it opens the door to more nuanced discussions about representation, responsibility, and the role public figures play in shaping cultural dialogue. It also highlights a contrast in how the two brothers approach controversy. Jake's online presence has often leaned into provocation, embracing reaction as fuel. Logan, at least in this instance, opted for clarification over escalation. Neither approach exists in isolation, and both have consequences. The backlash against Jake's comments wasn't just about one phrase. It was about what that phrase symbolized to people who felt dismissed or misrepresented. Logan's response acknowledged that hurt without amplifying it, which is why it resonated with so many. This wasn't a corporate statement or a carefully crafted press release. It was a personal message, grounded in a simple fact: Puerto Ricans are Americans. That statement shouldn't be controversial, but the fact that it needed to be said tells you everything about why this story matters. As the dust settles, the Super Bowl will be remembered for its plays, its commercials, and its halftime show. But for a segment of the audience, it will also be remembered as a moment when cultural assumptions were challenged, not by activists or analysts, but by a brother disagreeing with his own family in public. And that's where the real significance lies. Because in an era where outrage is often rewarded, choosing understanding is a statement in itself. It doesn't generate the same immediate shock, but it carries longer-lasting weight. Logan Paul didn't just disagree with his brother. He modeled what it looks like to use a platform responsibly, even when it means pushing back against someone close to you. That doesn't make him perfect, and it doesn't end the conversation. But it does move it forward. And in a media landscape that often thrives on division, moving forward is worth paying attention to. So as fans, viewers, and commentators, the question becomes less about who won an online argument and more about what we take from it. Because moments like this reveal how culture evolves, not through silence, but through dialogue. And sometimes that dialogue starts with a simple sentence that reminds people who belongs. Before you scroll away, here's something worth thinking about. When public figures speak on cultural issues, do you value provocation that sparks reaction or clarity that invites understanding? Share your thoughts, because this conversation doesn't end here.